Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 20. तथैव चन्या नरलोकवीरा ये आवकृष्णामुखरविन्दम् नेत्र पिबन्तु नयवीरमां पथस्तपुतपदमापुरस्य.
Certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows, and while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord.
Text 21. Swayam tvasam yatisayastridashiha Swarajalakshmi aptasamastakamaha Balim bharatvischiralokapale Kiritakodye ditapadapitaha.
Lord Sri Krishna is the Lord of all kinds of threes and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation who offer him the paraphernalia of worship by touching their millions of helmets to his feet.
Text 22. Tattasya kaikaryamalambratano viglapayati angayadugrasenam tishtan nishnanam parameshtitishne nyabodhyayadeva nitarayeti.
Therefore, O Vidura, does it not pain us, his servitors, when we remember that he, Lord Krishna, used to stand before King Ugrasena, who was sitting on the royal throne, and used to submit explanations before him, saying, O my Lord, please let it be known to you.
Text 23. Aho bhagiyam stanakalakutam jigam shayapaya yadapyashadvi labhe gatim datriuchitam tatonyam kambadayalum saranam vrajame.
Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putna, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast.
Text 24. Manye suran bhagavatam triyatishe samrambhamaga biniveshta chittan ye samyuge chaksatatarakshya putram amse sunabhya yudam apatantam.
I consider the demons who are inimical toward the Lord to be more than the devotees because while fighting with the Lord, absorbed in thoughts of enmity, they are able to see the Lord carried on the shoulder of Garud, the son of Traksha, Kashyapa, and carrying the wheel weapon in his hand.
Text 25. वासुदेवस्य देवक्यं चतुर्भुजेन्द्रवन्दने चिकेषु भगवानस्य सम् अजेनाभियच्युता.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, being prayed to by Brahma to bring welfare to the earth, was begotten by Vasudev in the womb of his wife Devaki in the prison of the king of Bhoja.
Text 26. ततो नन्दाव्रजं वित्तः पितृकं षद्विपीभयता एकादशा समस्तत्र कुतर्ची सा बालवसत्.
Thereafter, his father, being afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda, and there he lived for 11 years like a covered flame with his elder brother Baldev.
27. परितो वत्सपैर्वत्सं चरायन् व्याहरद् विभुः यमुनोपावने कुर्यात् द्विजासङ्कुले तन्ग्रीरिपि.
In his childhood, the Almighty Lord was surrounded by cow-herd boys and calves. Thus he travelled on the shore of the Yamuna river, through gardens densely covered with trees and filled with vibrations of chirping birds.
Text 28. Kumarim darsayam chetam prekshaniyam vrajokasham Rudani vahasan mukta balasimhavalokana.
When the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for childhood, he was visible only to the residents of Vrindavan. Sometimes he would cry and sometimes laugh just like a child. While so doing, he would appear like a lion cub.
Text 29. Saiva Godanam Lakshmeya Niketam Sita Govrasham Charayan Anguna Gopan Pranadvenurariramat.
While herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys.
Text 30. Prayuktan Bhojarajena Mayina Kamarupina Lilaya Vyanutattam Stan Balakridanakan Iva.
The great wizards who were able to assume any form were engaged by the king of Bhoja, Kamsa, to kill Krishna. But in the course of his pastimes, the Lord killed them as easily as a child breaks dolls.
Text 31. Vipanan Visapanena Nigraye Bhujagatipam Uthapya Payayat Gavas Tattoyam Prakriti Stitam. Translation, Mataji.
Sorry, I didn't unmute, sorry. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of the Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kalya. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state.
Text 32. अयैजयद्गोसवेना गोपराजं द्विजोत्तमये वितस्य चोरुपरस्य चिकीर्षांसद्वियं विभु.
The Supreme Lord Krishna desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows, and also he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thus he advised his father to perform worship of Go, or the pasturing land and the cows, with the help of learned brahmanas.
Text 33. वसत्रिन्दे व्रजकोपात् भग्नामाने त्विहा वलः गोत्रलीलातपात्रेण रतो भद्रानुगृह्णताय.
O sober Vidura, King Indra, his honor having been insulted, poured water incessantly on Vrindavan, and thus the inhabitants of Raj, the land of cows, were greatly distressed. But the compassionate Lord Krishna saved them from danger with his pastime umbrella, the Govardhan Hill.
634. सरक्चाशीकार्यमृष्टं मान्यन् राजेन मुखं गयाङ्कालपादं रेमे श्रीनामण्डलामण्डनः.
In the third season of the year, the Lord enjoyed as the central beauty of the assembly of women by attracting them with his pleasing songs in an autumn night, brightened by moonshine. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for wonderful recitation. Harsha Mataji and Meenakshi Mataji, thank you so much. Our home internet, unfortunately, is down today. Several in our area who are under this company, our internet is down since several hours. So I will be on my handphone mobile today. So please bear with me. Jyoti Mataji has kindly agreed to share the Veda base for us as we are going to discuss chapter summary. So Mataji will show the verses on the screen and we will discuss the verses as much as we can in a very little time we have. I intend to conclude at 8:40, so we have 5 minutes for discussion at the end. So I seek your blessings and we try to discuss the shlokas today for our purification. So we will recite the Mangalacharan prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langhayate girim, yat kripatamaham vande, Shri Guru Deenataranam, Paramananda Madhavam, Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी सतां प्रसङ्गान् मम वीर्यसंविदो भवन्ति हृत्कर्णरसायण कथाः तज्जोषनादाश्वपवर्गवर्त्मनि श्रद्धारतिर्भक्तिरनुक्रमिष्यते. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to Chat Plus, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Remembrance of Lord Krishna. So this is a very beautiful chapter. As we know, this has so many beautiful pastimes, this chapter. And Uddhava's love for Krishna, his emotions and feelings and spiritual ecstasy in separation of Krishna, we will see in the first 6-7 verses. Thereafter, he will be describing Krishna's pastimes, not in a very systematic way, but out of his complete ecstasy and feelings for Krishna. Thereafter, he will be describing. Okay, so the first breakdown 1 to 6 verses, Uddhava's exalted position. 7 to 11, unfortunate situation of the Yadus and others. 12 to 14, Uddhava remembers the attractive beauty of the Lord. 16 to 24 is Lord's mercy and bewildering activities. And the last verses, 25 to 34, is a brief pastimes description of the Lord in pastimes in Braja. So, just to understand the way this chapter has started, to connect it with the first chapter, as we know that in the first chapter we saw the incidents that led Vidura to leave Hastinapur. He was giving good advice to Dhritarashtra, but Duryodhan became very furious and he told Vidura to leave and he insulted him with his harsh words. But as we know, Vidura took it very positively. And as the internal potency of the Lord is working on him and Maya is working on Duryodhan, he just left his bow and arrow on the doorstep and in the mood of Gatavyataha, without the care for position, he left the palace and he went to the pilgrimage. And we know that he wants to visit the temples, he takes bath in holy rivers. Then near Yamuna, he meets Uddhava. So, as this chapter starts, we know that Uddhava is a personal associate of Krishna in Dwarka. And Uddhava at that time was traveling to Badrikashram. And this pastime comes in 11th canto, 6th chapter properly. And in 10th chapter, 10th canto, first chapter, we learn that once in Dwarka, the Devatas, the demigods came to visit Krishna and they said that they they want Krishna to appear on earth and reduce the burden by killing the demons. So Lord did that. So now Devatas went to Dwarka and they said that now that you have done what is required, if there is no more things here, then you can depart to spiritual world. So Krishna will depart to spiritual world, but before that, he needs the Yadus to leave this material world. And so that is described in Canto 11, chapter 30 and 31. And the brief mention also comes in this Canto 3rd and 4th chapter about the Yadus. And then what happens is that first the Yadus left, then Balramji left. And before Krishna leaves, he meets Uddhav. And Uddhav also wants to go back to the eternal abode of Krishna with him. He says, I can't stay in separation from you, Krishna, so take me with you. But Krishna says he did everything that he had to, but he did not go to Badrikashram. So he is giving Uddhava a service to go to Badrikashram and give his message to the sages there. Thus, Krishna teaches 23 chapters of Uddhav Gita to Uddhav, that comes in Canto 11, which is a long philosophical episode in Srimad Bhagavatam, 23 chapters. And so this is the service Uddhav has got. So Krishna leaves to spiritual world, but Uddhav is having to go to Badrikashram. So this is the background, that on the way he meets Vidura, and Vidura is now asking several questions to Uddhav. What is the welfare of the relatives and etc. And Uddhav becomes very, very overwhelmed because he is already in a deep separation from Krishna, and he could not respond for 48 minutes, which is one muhurata, because he went in deep trance and he was on a spiritual trance. So Vidur understood this. See, it takes one to know one. A pure devotee knows another pure devotee. So Vidur understood that, right, Uddhava is in separation of Krishna and in his deep emotion and thoughts of Krishna. So he's not on the material plane at the moment. So then after 48 minutes, Uddhav starts speaking. And that is basically our summary up to verse 7. In verse 2, it is important to understand, Srila Prabhupada also mentions in the purport that Uddhav was so absorbed in worshipping the deity of Krishna and playing with the dolls of Krishna when he was young. That was his attachment to the Lord. And also, we know several examples as children, they were great devotees. Prabhupada, he was also a child absorbed in conducting Jagannath Rath Yatra. We know, in a donated chariot with his friends. And him and his sister used to worship Radha Govinda deities in their street as small children. Even Parikshit Maharaj got darshan of the Lord in the womb of his mother. So after he was born, he was examining everybody and searching for that same Krishna he had seen in the womb. And also we know Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, these are the great devotees who were as children devotees of the Lord. And also in Prahlad Maharaj teaching this verse comes Kaumara Macharet Pragno, that bhakti should start at a young age. So yeah, that is one of the things here. Then in verse 3 also, Uddhav's service attitude is mentioned in the purport nicely by Prabhupada, that I'm reading from the purport, that in the transcendental service there is no saturation and therefore there is no retirement. See, on material level, people, when they become old, they retire. But on a spiritual or transcendental plane, our service attitude never retires, but it only matures as we grow older. So our sadhana should not stop because we grow older. In fact, Uddhav became more and more absorbed in his sadhana, chanting. We should read, we should speak Harikatha as much as, on the bodily plane we can. And thus Uddhava is absorbed in Krishna's Smaranam and Seva, as the purport says, and he's even got a service now from Krishna. Even though he's old, he has to go to Badrikashram and give the Uddhav Gita message to the sages there. So that is one of the lessons here, that in bhakti there is no retirement. Then moving on to verse 7 to 11, that is the unfortunate situation of the Yadus described here. Verse 7 has a very nice analogy of sun and Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada explains beautifully by the example of sun. The appearance of Krishna is like sunrise and his disappearance is compared to sunset. So when sun rises once in 24 hours, right? Similarly, Krishna appears once in a day of Brahma. So sun appears in the morning, gradually rises, and then in the evening it disappears like a sunset. Similarly, Krishna disappears in one universe, Prabhupada says, and simultaneously appears in another universe. And he continuously performs his pastimes in this way from one to another universe. And so it is a Nitya Leela. Similarly, like sunsets doesn't mean that sun is gone away. Sun rises in another country, right? So also Prabhupada gives the example that with the sunset, bad or undesirable effect take place, like ghosts become more powerful and active. The flowers start disfiguring. Similarly, Krishna's disappearance may cause one universe to become dark, and atheists become more enlivened, and devotees become sorry. So, this kind of comparison is given. But one thing we need to understand is that sunset affects people and darkness around, but the sunset doesn't affect the sun. Sun remains as it is glowing wherever. In the same way, Krishna's disappearance affects the people, but it does not affect Krishna himself. So, then moving on to verse number 8, here the translation says that this universe is most unfortunate, and the Yadus are even more unfortunate because they could not identify Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here one example is given is that of a fish. Fish considers itself and the moon as same. Fish thinks that moon is just same amongst us, same like us. Why? Because the way to understand is that moon came out of Samudra Manthan. When the churning of milk ocean happens in 8th canto, past time, moon comes out when the ocean is churned. So the fish thinks we are also born of ocean. Moon is also born of ocean. So we are same. So that is not true, is it? Where is moon and where is the fish? In the same way, Yadus could not understand, being close relatives of Krishna, that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and that is the misfortune. So then we can see, moving on to verse number 9, Uddhava is lamenting for the Yadus. They did not take Krishna seriously. Now, here we need to understand that there are two categories of Yadus. There is one portion of Yadus, they are the demigods who took birth as Yadus in Krishna's family, and there is this other portion who are the eternal associates of the Lord who came from the spiritual world. So when the Maushala Leela happens, Krishna does this so that these two parts can be separated. The eternal parts do not go to Maushala Leela, but the Yadus, who were demigods, take part in Maushala Leela, who also did not take Krishna seriously. So if Krishna leaves this world, they might actually become dysfunctional, and they may not be able to even live separately, even the eternal parts without Krishna, those who were eternal parts associates. So the demigod part of the Yadus go to Maushala Lila, and they die there fighting with each other and go back to their respective places. And the eternal parts, they go back to spiritual world. They do not take part in Maushala Lila. So the background of Maushala Lila quickly is that we know Samba, who is Jambavati's son. So he pretended that this son is pregnant, and he pretended that there is a child, and all of this Samba, Jambavati's son Samba and other children went to the sages, big sages who had come there in Dwarka. He dressed as a pregnant woman, and the boys mocked them. That, can you tell us whether the child born will be a girl or a boy? So the sages obviously understood this prank, and they cursed them that the iron club will be born and it will become the cause of destruction of your entire dynasty. So then Ugrasen Maharaj suggested to grind this iron club, to powder it and immerse it in ocean. So the particles were put in the ocean. By the waves, these particles came on the shore, and they grew as big canes. And when the Yadus came to Prabhashetra, they fought with each other with the same canes, and they left this world. So that is the Maushala Leela, and that is the background of the Yadus, how they go back to their respective places, after whom then Krishna also leaves this world. So in the 10th verse, it is explained that there are some people who are affected by Lord's material energy. They get confused, they get bewildered, and they take shelter of the temporary. But those who are pure and dedicated devotees of Krishna do not take Krishna for granted. So yes, the devotees of the Lord never take Krishna granted. And we know there is also this verse in Bhagavad Gita 9.11 that materialistic people cannot understand Lord's divinity, about the mudhas. avajananti mamudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride Krishna when he descends in the human form. They do not know his transcendental nature as the supreme lord of all that be. And there is also one more verse, 7.25 Bhagavad Gita. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrataha. Mudoyam nabi janati loko mamajam avyayam. Krishna is not obliged to reveal his divinity to everyone, right? So only some who are fortunate, surrendered, who got Krishna's grace and mercy will be able to understand Krishna's divinity and never doubt his plan. Then the 11th verse says that there are unqualified people who were unable to see Krishna due to not executing required penance. And so Krishna just disappeared from this planet. 12 to 14 verses, Uddhav remembers the attractive beauty of the Lord. So verse number 12, I would like to recite that. It's on the screen, Mataji, verse number 12. I will recite. It's a very, very beautiful shloka. It is quoted many times by Prabhupada, many times also. So, Yanmartyalilौ paikam swayoga maya balam darshayata grihitam विस्मापनं स्वस्य च सौभगर्धे परं पदं भूषणभूषणाङ्गम्. So the last line, param padam bhushana bhushanangam. We know that when someone wears ornaments, they look beautiful. It increases the person's beauty when they wear ornaments. But Krishna is actually the ornament of all the ornaments. Because Krishna wears them, the ornaments look beautiful. So Krishna is increasing the ornament's beauty. And also the verse, it means Yanmartya Leela Paikam Swayoga Maya Balam Darshayata Grihitam. When Krishna appears as human being, some people misunderstand him. Some devotees relish his pastimes very nicely. So he appears by his own internal potency, right? Leela Upayikam, just suitable for the pastimes. He takes birth accordingly in this mortal world by his internal potency. His form is Satchidananda Vigraha. So even being in the material world, his body is completely spiritual. And even Krishna's personal expansions become very excited to see his beautiful form of Krishna. So here there is one story that once Lord Vishnu wanted to have darshan of Krishna of Vrindavan, on the Bhauma Vrindavan. So what he does, he kidnaps the small Brahman children in Dwarka city. So then Arjun and Krishna both go to Mahavishnu Loka to retrieve these boys. And when they go, even Vishnu, different avatars, incarnations of Krishna and Devtas, they all get so attracted to see Krishna's human form and the pastimes. They are so enchanting and they are so charming to everyone. Even Vishnu and demigods got attracted to see the beauty of the Lord. So such is the beauty of Lord Krishna. And as we discussed, Parampadam Bhushana Bhushanangam. So similarly, verse 12, 13, 14 has the similar theme. Even verse 13 explains that Krishna's beauty is unsurpassable. You know, all the demigods assembled in the Rajasuya Yagna also concluded that the auspicious beauty of Krishna surpassed the dexterity of Brahma in creating beautiful objects. So here, some people, they don't know that Krishna is actually the father of Brahma. So Krishna created Brahma, and Brahma is Shrushti Karta for other living beings, but he is not the Karta, Shrushti Karta for Krishna. And then the next verse 14, and this is again a very beautiful verse about the gopis of Vrindavan, verse 14. यस्यानुरागप्लुतः सरासा लीलावलोक प्रतिलब्धमानः व्रजस्त्रियो दृग्भिरनुप्रवृत्ता धियो वतस्थु किल कृत्यशेषाः. So the verse says that Supreme Lord Krishna completely captivates the minds of the gopis. Gopis are constantly remembering Krishna's laughter, his Rasa Leela, his most divine dancing pastimes, and they are so attracted to Krishna. And Krishna, interacts with the gopis. When he smiles with them, his glances, everything gopis remember so fondly. All the gopis of Vrindavan, they drink Krishna's beauty as Krishna is passing to the forest. And they are so absorbed in Krishna sometimes that they cannot even complete their household activities, and these activities remain pending. So there is also beautiful description of all of this in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Then verse number 15 to 24, Uddhava now remembers Krishna's bewildering activities. So verse 15, let's have a look. It's on the screen. We can also read can someone read the translation? Verse number 15, we are just going to read translation. Anyone wants to read?
Read
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Translation, yeah?
Yes, please.
Okay. The personality of Godhead, the all-compassionate controller of both the spiritual and material creation, is unborn. But when there is friction between his peaceful devotees and persons who are in the material modes of nature, he takes birth just like fire, accompanied by the Mahatattva.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, so this verse explains that Krishna is, although he is unborn, but to protect his devotees, he descends on this planet compassionately to give protection to his devotees who are harassed by non-devotees like Kamsa. And verse 16 is about Hmm. Verse 16. So here Uddhav says that his intelligence is completely confused and bewildered by thinking of Krishna's contradictory activities. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains what are the different contradictory activities of, Krishna. So we can see from there the 3 points that although Krishna is unborn, he takes birth, right? He took birth. And the word says here vidambanam. Here there is one word vidambanam. Vidambanam means that it is a bewildering act. So it is very bewildering. Even Kunti Maharani says in verse 1:8:32, Kechi Dahu Rajam Jatam, means that one who is unborn takes birth. Secondly, he lived in Vraja out of fear of his enemy Kamsa, apparently. I mean, Krishna is not afraid of anyone. But soon after he is born to Devki and Vasudev, he asks to be taken to Nanda Baba's house and he stays there. Apparently, it looks like out of fear of enemy Kamsa, but that's not the case. So this is like a contradictory activities. And thirdly, though unlimitedly powerful, he fled from Mathura. There is one episode when Krishna fled from Mathura. So because Lord is all powerful, it is possible for him to adjust the opposites. Then verse number 17. Verse number 17, Krishna acts as a humble servant and he reports to Ugrasen. Now, this is the humility of Krishna, and also we can see here that Krishna sets an example of an ideal son. If we see verse number 17 in the purport, somewhere I'm reading from the purport here, that instruction by the Lord to the world is quite appropriate. Even if one is the Supreme Lord, one must serve his parents. A son is indebted to his parents in so many ways, and it is the duty of the son to serve his parents, however great the son may be. So we can see Krishna sets perfect example of being an ideal son here. And at the same time, the lesson here is that even pure devotees, they may have to undergo unpleasant circumstances, but they did not blame Krishna. For example, Devki and Vasudev, they waited so many years to get darshan of their son, but they did not lose faith in Krishna. Krishna never deprives mercy to his devotees who deserve it. So, yes, he may test his devotees, but he is not ignoring or neglecting them. And as a sadhaka or practicing devotees, we should have a lot of patience and trust in Krishna's intentions and integrity. So that is one of the lessons from the verse number 17. We can see that. And verse 18 says, someone wants to read the translation again? Verse 18, translation, please.
I can read, Mataji.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Mataji.
Translation. Who, after smelling the dust of his lotus feet even once, could ever forget it? Simply by expanding the leaves of his eyebrows, Krishna has given the death blow to those who were burdening the earth.
Yes, very nice. Thank you, Mataji. So here, what is the meaning of smelling the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna? Basically, it means practically to take shelter of Krishna. One who has taken a shelter of Krishna once, they will never leave those lotus feet. And even Krishna never leaves his devotees once we have taken shelter. Even sometimes we may become a bit go out of our lose the path, but Krishna will bring us back. Somehow he will show his mercy and bring us back to track. And in Bhagavad Gita also there is verse 2.40, Neha Vikramanashosti. Wherever we stopped bhakti in one birth, next birth we will start from there. So Krishna will definitely show us the way, and he will never leave us, and he will help us to advance nicely in bhakti. So that's what's the meaning of smelling the dust of his lotus feet once, then the devotee will never leave Krishna. And also in verse 18, there is this mention is there that, is it this verse? Okay, no, it comes further up. Then verse number 19 is about the Rajasuya Yagna. Once Yudhishthir Maharaj did Rajasuya Yagna, and in the Agra Puja, he honored Krishna. But Krishna never expects such honor. He preferred to stand at the main gate of Yudhishthir Maharaj palace, and he took up the service of washing feet of all the guests who were arriving. So this is the humility of Krishna. And so at this point, we can also see from different pastimes that we saw till now, how Uddhav is explaining Yadus, then he's talking about the gopis, then he talks about the contradictory activities of Krishna. Several things are there, right? That how he's reporting to Ugrasen, how Mother Devki and Vasudeva were missing Krishna and how much they suffered. So all this time, Uddhava is experiencing acute separation from Krishna, and he is randomly remembering the pastimes of Krishna. Sometimes, as Ratsuya Yagna, Devki Vasudev, Gopis, Yadu's misfortune, unsurpassable beauty of Krishna, and how he, reduced the burden of the earth. So we can see how he is so much still in ecstasy of love of Krishna and separation from him, that he is describing the pastimes like this. But later on, we will see from the coming verses that he will go very systematically from his birth up to the disappearance. Briefly, he will explain from verse 24. Now, verse number 20 again is a very important verse which is mentioned at so many places also in Bhagavatam. तथैव चान्ये नरलोकवीरा य आहवे कृष्णमुखारविन्दं नेत्रैः पिबन्तो नयनाभिरामं पार्थास्त्रपूतः पदमापुरस्याम्. So Uddhav now remembers the Kurukshetra war. He says that how the Lord's darshan and the devotees' arrows purified those warriors on the great battlefield of Kurukshetra. Those who were fighting, they got the opportunity to see Krishna's lotus face, and they drank his beauty and gave up their body. And they were also purified by the arrows of Arjun. So they were doubly purified and attained rarest supreme destination of Krishna's spiritual world. So here we can see that whether Krishna kills or protects, he ultimately protects only. Even being killed by the Lord is for the benefit. Even killed by devotee Arjun's arrows, all these people, they attain liberation. So in verse 20, purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, appears in this world for two missionary purposes: to deliver the faithful and to annihilate the miscreants. But because the Lord is absolute, his two different kinds of actions, although apparently different, are ultimately one and the same. His annihilation of a person like Shishupal is as auspicious as his actions for the protection of the faithful. So we can see here that the devotees of the Lord, when they leave, they go to Goloka Vrindavan planet, and when these people who died like on the Kurukshetra war, like this, or those who have just awakened their love by accident or association, they are then transferred to Vaikuntha planets. So moving on to verse number 21. Verse number 21 says that there is no one equal to or greater than Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, so that means Krishna is Asamordhva. And we know verse 7.7 Bhagavad Gita, Matta Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. Secondly, we know in this verse that Swayam Tva Asamyati Shayas Trayadisha. Yeah, I remember discussing this a few days ago, Trayadisha. And all the devotees participants had put together that what is Krishna, the Lord of threes. He is a Lord of three worlds, three modes, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, three Guna Avtaras, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, three pairs of opulences. We know here in the Purport Srila Prabhupada says wealth and beauty, renunciation, power, knowledge, etc. Right? And he is the Lord of the three qualities, three Purushas. Srila Prabhupada says in the Purport. Yeah, and also he mentions Chit Shakti, Maya Shakti, Tatastha Shakti. All these he is Lord of. So, and Krishna is independently supreme and proprietor of all the universes, and his desires are automatically fulfilled. So, all these characteristics of Krishna are mentioned in this verse 21. And the rulers of different planets come and offer obeisances to Krishna, and they touch their crowns to a golden jewel bedded footrest used by Krishna. And that's what the last line is, Kirita Kotiye Ditapada Pitha. So, thus, Krishna is so glorious. Verse 22 mentions Krishna's humility, how he becomes, subordinate of Ugrasen. First, he is the one who enthroned Ugrasen as king, and then he comes and reports to him, this happened, that happened. So he takes a subordinate position. He's so humble. Verse 23 is again a very, very popular verse. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigamsayapa yadapya sadhvi lebhe gatim dhatriuchitam tatonyam kamvadayalum sharanam vrajema. So we know that translation, alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she demon Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. So now we know that Putna came with a malicious desire and intention to kill Krishna, but because she came dressed like Mother Yashoda, Krishna saw her dress rather than intention and gave her the highest position in Goloka as a nurse and a maid to Mother Yashoda. So this is the highest mercy of Krishna we can see, and it's very special in Vrindavan. He is very, very merciful. This is also the glory of pure devotees of Krishna. We can see by the mercy of Mother Yashoda also, Putana is getting liberation because she came dressed just like Mother Yashoda. So Krishna thought, oh, she's dressed like my mother. So he saw this about Putana and he rejected the bad intention and thus he liberated her. So we know that in this world also we have to be careful of pseudo gurus and people who take different pretense, and they are not in harmony with their emotions and actions. Externally they look nice, but internally they have malicious intentions. And I remember discussing, we all had put some examples together of Indra, how he acts like Brahmana and he steals the horse of Prithu Maharaj Ashwamedh Yagna. We know how Ravan came dressed in saffron robes, but he kidnaps Mother Sita. Then we had discussed Pralambasur, demon, who came as innocent Gopa and took part in the games. Vyomasur came as innocent calf. And also demon Maricha, he took a form of the deer and tried to attract Mother Sita's attention, and that was the vicious plan to kidnap her. So in this way, we can see, but the main point here is that Krishna ignored the attitude of Putana and he reciprocated with the attire. So Krishna is very, very desperate to give his mercy and he is very, very kind. Verse 24 onwards, now Krishna will explain all the pastimes. Uddhav explains very, very systematically all the pastimes. So here there is one very important point in 24th verse. It's about the absorption of the demons. Krishna considers demons to be devotees because whilst fighting in enmity, they are absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord. In anger and whilst dying, they are able to see the Lord on Garuda with chakra. So here what he is saying is that the demons are so absorbed 24/7 in the thoughts of Krishna. For example, Kamsa, Ravan, he was also so much absorbed in thoughts of Lord Ram, Shishupal, all of them. So because they were so absorbed, they got liberation. But if someone is not absorbed on the level of Kamsa or Shishupal, they will not get liberated. They will go to hell for blaspheming Krishna. So you have to be very, very careful. Obviously, devotees are connecting with Krishna with a very favorable and positive emotions. But here, the way we have to understand that why these asuras got liberation, it was because of their absorption. Krishna didn't see that they were absorbed with fear, bhaya, dvesha, enmity, all these things. But he saw the absorption and thus they got liberated. But for example, there is one demon called Vena. He also blasphemed Krishna a lot. He hated Krishna, but because his absorption was not there, he went to hell. So this also discussion comes in 7th canto of Bhagavatam in detail. If you want to read up, we don't have enough time to go through, but 7.1.30 words Kama, Dveshat, Bhayat, Snehat also explains this, that how by lust or hatred or fear, with these negative emotions which are not recommended, but because these demons were so absorbed that finally they also got liberated, they connected with Krishna in that way and got liberated. But the devotees of the Lord love Krishna and they do man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. So 25 to 34 verses are pastimes in Braja. I will just describe in one line. Now Uddhava describes Krishna's pastimes in a systematic manner. Verse 25 is about birth of Krishna. He was born to Vasudeva and Devki at the request of Brahma for the welfare of the earth. Verse 26 is Mathura to Vrindavan. Out of fear of Kamsa, Vasudeva brought Krishna to Vrindavan, where Lord stayed with Baladev for 11 years like a covered flame. Verse 27 is his pastimes in Braja. Krishna performed pastimes in Braja's beautiful forest on the banks of Yamuna in the association of all the cowherd boys and cows. And Balramji would message Krishna and some Gopas will sing song. He will massage Krishna. Balramji will massage Krishna's feet. Some Gopas will sing to Krishna. And thus they will have great fun in the forest of Vrindavan in Sakyaras. Verse 28 says, Krishna displayed the activities of a child to Brajvasis, and when the demon attacked, he appeared as if struck with wonder, but killed them like a lion cub. Verse 29 is Krishna's flute playing pastimes. Now we know that 10th canto, one full chapter is dedicated to Krishna's flute pastimes called Venu Gita. And it will also describe how what impact Krishna's flute song has on gopas, gopis, rivers, cows, calves, trees, birds. So we will see that in detail. It comes in 10th canto. Verse 30 is that Krishna is killer of demons. In the course of his pastimes, Krishna casually killed the demons sent by Kamsa as easily as a child breaks the dolls. And verse 31 describes he is a subduer of Kalia. Lord chastised and drove away Kalia and made the cows drink the poison-free Yamuna waters. So that description will also come in detail in 10th canto. And 32 and 33 verse explains this most beautiful pastime of Govardhan pastime. Now is the Kartik month. This pastime happened in the Kartik month along with Mother Yashoda tying Krishna by the wooden mortar, and also Krishna killing Agasur pastime happened in Kartik month. So thus Krishna protected the Vrajvasis from the devastating rainfall created by Indra, and Krishna protected even Indra from his own false pride. So Krishna took responsibility to pull Indra down from the mountain of his false pride, and he rectified the rebellious mentality of Indra. At the same time, he protected the Vrajvasis. And verse 34 is about the Ras Leela, that on the Sharad Purnima night, Krishna performed the Ras Leela pastimes and with the gopis. So that is the beautiful pastime in Sharad Purnima when the moon is full in the sky, and Krishna was inspired to have this Ras Leela pastime. He played the flute song under the Vamsivat, and enchanted all the gopis of Vrindavan. And they left their household paraphernalia, husband, son, family members, Vedic customs, and they crossed all the boundaries and came to Krishna. So this was the brief outline of Vrindavan pastimes. Next chapter onwards, there will be Mathura and Dwarka pastimes described by Uddhav. So it's 8:42. I would like to conclude here. Thank you so much for your patience and your association. Really appreciate it. And this opportunity for my purification in this very auspicious Kartik month to be able to discuss with your mercy and blessings. I'm very, very grateful. So Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Do you have any comments or anything that you liked from this chapter that you want to mention? Your reflections. We have few minutes.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Who is that?
Hare Krishna.
Hare...
Neela Vasana Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Danvat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Pranam, Mataji. Just one question.
Yeah.
Regarding liberation.
Hmm.
Like in the Kurukshetra, battlefield of Kurukshetra, there are two sides fighting, like Pandava, they are like righteous, they are like fighting Dharma Yudh, and Duryodhan is like Adharmi, yeah?
Yes, yes.
He's not fighting the righteous war. So they say that if a Kshatriya dies on the battlefield, they go to heavenly planets.
Yes.
So, but Duryodhan is fighting for the wrong reasons. Would he still go to heavenly planet for sacrifice? I mean, like for dying on the battlefield, or
Yes,
he?
Mataji. So yes, it's a very good question. So the explanation that acharyas give is that whoever died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, seeing Krishna as God, understanding him as the Lord, taking his darshan, they died, then they will go back to Godhead. Otherwise, they will get a favorable situation, position again to start their bhakti. But those who died knowing Krishna as God in a favorable way would definitely go back to Godhead. And those, as we mentioned earlier, those demons also, because they were so absorbed 24/7, they are doing mananam, manmanha bhava, not as mad bhakto, but they were so absorbed that even they get liberated. So Krishna saw their absorption. And even at one point, Krishna was feeling so sorry for Duryodhan. His heart was melting for Duryodhan that he is not able to understand this simple thing. So Lord is very, very merciful. And if he is present on the battlefield himself, those who saw seeing him will definitely go back to Godhead, those who saw him as Lord. Otherwise, they will get favorable situation, Mataji. That is my explanation or understanding. I hope it makes sense.
I was just
It's
like,
not
there was still a
completely black
little
and white.
doubt. Yeah. Yeah, I was
Sorry, Mataji.
wondering that in a case of Kurukshetra, war of Kurukshetra, because Krishna was present there,
Yes.
it's a different situation. But otherwise,
Hmm.
if somebody is fighting an unjust war, that would
Hmm.
definitely go to hell, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, because
Mm.
remember there was one example when we were doing Bhagavad Gita that if a soldier kills in a war under the order of his superior, he is not punished because he is doing his duty. He kills the
Mhm.
enemy as a duty, he will not go to hell. But the same
Mhm.
soldier, if he comes home and kills his neighbor without any authority's direction or orders, he's not doing his duty, he will be caught by
Yeah.
police and punished. Does it make
Okay.
sense? So
Yeah.
those who are doing duty by superior
Mhm.
order in a righteous way,
Yeah.
their dharma is to kill. So that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So he's saying, do your duty, but the main duty is to please Krishna. If we are pleasing Krishna by our duty, then that is the right duty. Sarva dharman parityajya means that you please me and do it in that way. And how we will please? We will please by following the Shastra. So we will be doing all the right things if we follow all the rules and regulations and prescriptions given in the Shastra, like 4 regulatory principles and chanting 16 rounds. We can't go wrong, right, Mataji? So
Yeah.
that's what Krishna says, that Mam Evam
Mhm.
Sharanam Raja means he is very happy with Arjun because he understood the point that yes, I am fighting not just as my duty, but because it is the order of Krishna. This will please Krishna. So bhakti involves doing our work with love. And karma means just doing our prescribed duty and thereafter offering it to Krishna. That is also good at our level, but bhakti is moreover doing something with love. In the From the beginning only our consciousness is I want to please Krishna. Whether today I am cooking, then what I am cooking, it is for Krishna. As a student, if I am studying, then my goal is to please Krishna. If I am earning, then with that, my goal is to ultimately please Krishna. I will use that Lakshmi in the right way in my spiritual activities for my family. I mean, does it make that's why bhakti is a step above karma yoga. Bhakti yoga is that's how.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
does make
Does
sense. Yeah, no, no, it does make sense, Mataji. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much for your question and interaction. It's nice that at the end, even if someone wants to share something really they want to take home from this chapter or that they liked some points, then that's nice to interact. Okay. All right. Fine then. It is 8:48. So thank you so much, dear devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitana pavanebhyo वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय शिला प्रभुपाद की जय
की जय हरे कृष्णा
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. Thank you.
माता
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
जी
Krishna.
माता जी हरे कृष्णा